women just got a lot more intense thanks to the U.S. Supreme Court. It ruled Hobby Lobby could indeed limit access to certain kinds of contraception because of its religious beliefs. Republicans hailed the decision as a victory for religious freedom. Louisiana Governor Bobby Jindal tweeting, quote, "President Obama's war on religious liberty hits a wall, the First Amendment." Others, like Kristen Hawkins, the president for Students for Life of America, went a step farther.
Birth control does not make me equal to men. I honor my fertility. My fertility is a gift. It is not a disease.
Democrats, on the other hand, see this decision in an entirely different light. Oregon Senator Jeff Merkley tweeted, quote, "Your boss does not belong in your bedroom or your boardroom." Supreme Court Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg, who issued a scathing dissent, has become a sort of folk hero. She is now known as Notorious RBG, a badass for standing up for women's rights. So let's talk about this. Sally Cohn is a political commentator for CNN, and Rachel Campos-Duffy is a blogger at CatholicVote.org and the author of Stay Home, Stay Happy. Welcome to both of you.
Thank you, Carol.
Thanks for being here.
Hi, Carol. I'm the national spokesperson for the LIBRE initiative.
Awesome. Thanks so much. So, Rachel, I'll start with you. Do you see the Hobby Lobby decision as empowering to women?
Look, this was the Obamacare versus the First Amendment, and the First Amendment won. And what I see with young women in particular is that they're trending libertarian, and they understand that they can't have it both ways. They can't, on the one hand, ask for the government to stay out of their lives, stay out of their bedroom, and on the other hand, expect for their employer to subsidize their birth control at the expense of their religious liberty. They're very smart, they're very savvy, and although I can see how and why the Democrats are going to try and use this to gin up support among young women, and it may work with some, I still think it's a mistake, because women care the same as the rest of America about the economy first and foremost. And what they're seeing is that this Obama economy is hurting women in particular.
Sally, do you agree with that?
Not even remotely. I mean, first of all, women, where Rachel's right, is that women, like all voters, care more about the economy and jobs, and it would be nice if Republicans were focusing on that, but instead Republicans keep focusing on attacking women's reproductive freedom. This was a settled issue. We figured this one out until Republicans reopened it. This is very simple. Women across the country who work, who have jobs, that is part of their economic, the economic engine of this country, pay a part of the portion of their health insurance. Employers pay a part of that insurance. That covers all kinds of things, including birth control. The decision to use birth control, which birth control, is a decision between a woman and her doctor. Period. And what Republicans have done, what this court has helped them do, is say, no, actually, that should be the decision of the government, of the courts, of your boss. That's ridiculous in this day and age. Of course women are outraged.
What's ridiculous is to think that this ruling has anything to do with women's access to birth control. It absolutely does not. It's a very reasonable and limited ruling saying that only 4 out of 20 different forms of birth control are abortifacient and violate the religious liberty of the employer to not be involved in that, in subsidizing that form of birth control. Women can still go out and get Plan B, get the morning after pill if that's what they want. Believe me, listen.
There's two things we should be really clear about here. First of all, according to the FDA and every major medical opinion, they are not abortion drugs. These drugs and devices, they're not. So that's it's fascinating.
That is a fact.
It's fascinating.
I'm on Sally's side on this one. Sorry, Rachel. That is a fact.
And it's really troubling that groups were able to assert a religious view that is purely just mythical. It is not based on fact, number one. Number two, if you're earning $7 an hour in this country, and I do want to, by the way, praise Hobby Lobby because they actually pay their workers well. They pay them $50 an hour. But if you're earning $7 an hour, paying for Plan B, paying for Ella, that's 5 to 10% of your monthly income that you now have to shoulder on your own. You don't have to pay for your Viagra on your own if you're a guy, but as a woman, you got to shoulder that on yourself. That's a big deal.
Well, Rachel, let me ask you this question. Let me ask you this question. Let me ask you this question, Rachel. Should a religious entity, any religious entity, tell you which drugs you should take and what they do and ignore medical science?
They are, first of all, it's not ignoring medical science. Those drugs are abortifacients. The morning after pill is an abortifacient. And we can sit here and argue that, but here's the bottom line. Women care about jobs. When I go to a job interview, I do not ask what, are you going to subsidize my birth control? First of all, I want to make sure.
Will you now?
No. What I ask is, what's my salary? What are my benefits? Do I have vacation time?
That's a benefit.
These are small, minutia arguments that are being used to gin up and somehow create the impression that conservatives or that employers that happen to have a religious point of view are somehow anti-women. Nothing could be further from the truth. Hobby Lobby has the right as business owners to not be involved and not subsidize that. This is Obamacare versus the First Amendment, and the First Amendment won.
Well, I think that there is a certain group who feel birth control. Well, I'll just put it this way. We have heard conservatives call women who support mandated coverage whores, frankly. This is the kind of rhetoric that's not helpful when a majority of women not only approve of birth control, but they take it. So really it seems to some women that this is really about controlling
forms of birth control.
Controlling how many times they have sex.
But it's worth noting here that Hobby Lobby provided Plan B and Ella, the two forms of birth control they now don't want to provide. They provided them for years until they decided to file this suit, right? So, again, this isn't a decision an employer should make. Rachel has a right to her opinion. She has a right to not take or use those medications. But government should not make those decisions. Employers should not make those decisions for their employees. This is plain and simple. This decision is wrong. This decision is un-American.
Well, Rachel, last word.
Well, last word, if the Democrats want to make this election about birth control, go for it. Because I think women care much more about the economy and the fact that this Obama economy has been horrible. Wages down, cost of living up, kids moving into their parents' basement, young women not being able to afford to live out on their own the way they want to. This is what this election is about. And all of this ginning up of very exaggerated arguments by the left is only going to prove the point that they're not serious about the economy.
Sally Cohn, Rachel Campos-Duffy, thanks so much.
Thanks, Carol.
It was an interesting, fun conversation. I'm back in a minute.